right, let's get into Gemini. Everybody's favorite. I'm just kidding. There's very mixed reviews on Gemini energy. Let's be real. All right. Here we go. All right, so Gemini. A lot of stuff happening with Gemini, as you probably already assumed. But so Gemini is the third zodiac constellation. It's between Taurus and Cancer here. So Gemini twins, these are all of the major stars within Gemini. Obviously there's more stars, but those are the brightest ones. All right, so Gemini mythology, let's get into it. So the most popular story comes from Greek mythology, which makes these two Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. So the twins here are the I'm not even, you know me in pronouncing things. So Dioscuri, not sure, meaning youth of Zeus, so children of Zeus. Castor is the mortal son of King Tyndareus. Tyndareus, we'll go with that, Tyndareus. And then Pollux is the immortal son of Zeus. So one has a mortal father, one has a godfather, I guess. All right, so they were both great horsemen, rode horses, really good at it. Pollux, the immortal one, was also a great fighter and boxer. Zeus disguised himself. This is how they ended up being twins. Zeus disguised himself as a swan and seduced their mother Leda. So they have the same mom. All right. So Leda, so Zeus, was up to Zeus things, turned himself into a swan, seduced Leda, which, Leda, what are you doing, babe? Like, whatever. So the twins were born in an egg. I see this as an uncall. I'm not sure how you say that, but if you look at this, that's babies that are still born in the umbilical or the fluid sac. What's it called? Placenta, I think. All right. So yeah, so they were born in an egg. I see it as that. There's probably other ways to interpret that, but that's how I see it. All right. So this king, King Tiberius, also slept with Leda on the same night. Messy, messy, messy things happening over there in Leda land. Anyways, so they so the twins then had two different fathers but the same mother. And I mean, genetically, what are we doing? Like, is this accurate? Probably not, but hey, whatever. Greek mythology, enjoy. All right, so these two, Castor and Pollux, ended up going on many adventures together, including Pollux challenging people to boxing matches pretty much wherever he went and then winning all of them, which, like, bro, calm down. But, that's what he was up to. That's what he was good at. So they eventually had to save their sister Helen from Theseus. And on their way back, they kidnapped the daughters of Lepus, Phoebe, and Hilera. Lepus' nephews Idas and oh my god, Idas and Lynceus confronted the twins and fought them. Castor, through all of this, ended up getting killed by Idas, and Pollux killed the other brother. So there's a lot that just happened there, right? So they went to go save their sister Helen, and then for some reason they decided to kidnap some daughters, Phoebe and Hilaria, which probably just should have left them be, but they decided that that was going to be how their day went. So then obviously their dad of the girls that they kidnapped sent over Idas and Lynceus, and that's who fought them. So through that battle, Castor, which is the mortal son, right? Not Pollux is the immortal son, whereas Castor is the mortal son, which is why he was able to be killed, ended up getting killed by Idas, and then Pollux killed the other guy. So a lot of death happening, one for one, basically. All right, so then Zeus killed Idas for killing Castor, as Zeus would. And then Zeus gave Pollux two choices. he could either, one, spend all of his time on Mount Olympus, home of the gods, or two, give half of his immortality to his mortal brothers so they could live in alternate realms. And Pollux chose to give half of his immortality to his brother. So they were able to like live separately. So for example, like one would be on Mount Olympus and then one would be able to be on Earth. So they would switch back and forth. Mount Olympus is actually on Mars. So there's ways, not ways, there's ways. So essentially on all planets there are, or were at least, portals to get to different other planets, other physical realities. And there is, if you look at like Mount Olympus in the Greek mythology, then Olympus Mons on Mars, there's a portal that went between them. So that is also can be seen as different realms too, I guess, now that I think about it. But anyway, not going to get too into that today because that's a little bit not the point of this. All right, so Castor and Pollux, how do we interpret for this energy when it comes to astrology? So anybody with Gemini placements, regardless if they have a star alignment to Gemini, obviously if they do have a star alignment within Gemini, it's going to enhance this energy, but the main energies here astrologically from Castor and Pollux in the Gemini constellations, youthful, forever young vibes. They may have a different father than their siblings. This person might, they might be a twin. I do see that a lot of people that are twins have Gemini placement somewhere, which is really fascinating to me. This is air energy, so mental energy, people that are very talkative, very smart. I'm not going to say wise necessarily, but very curious, very intuitive, good at fighting physically and mentally. Like these are not the ones to play with. You know, if you've ever met a Gemini, like they are smart and they are physically able as well. So likes to challenge other people. They may have to protect siblings at some point from harm. That can mean a lot of different things. That can mean like from your parents at school, let's see, from other siblings, from somebody's boyfriend, you know what I mean? So like that can play out in a tremendous amount of different ways. Generous with knowledge and power, like rarely will you meet a Gemini that has a bunch of knowledge and doesn't want to share it. So that's good on them, honestly. And then willingness to share, and then very helpful. So those are some of the more positive attributes of this Gemini energy. Another Gemini myth here is if you look at Gemini within the tarot, it's the Lovers card. So this actually goes back to Gilgamesh and Enkidu, which is some very interesting energy. I honestly, like, I don't love this energy because Gilgamesh, these are the original twin flames as well. So we see a lot of overlaps, and like twin flames aren't necessarily what people think that they are. Twin flames, which I might get into here, but twin flames are essentially another person that the gods created for you to show you and teach you lessons. It's not necessarily like they're to balance you out. So if you're over here doing some crazy shit, the gods are going to craft a being to come in and balance you out so that you can not be on such extremes, like come to the middle. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't, based on who the person is, like how powerful they are, how committed to their own shenanigans they are, you know what I mean? So, all right, so the lovers, Gilgamesh and Enkidu, the Epic of Gilgamesh is regarded as the earliest surviving notable literature and second oldest religious text. So this goes back real far. The Epic of Gilgamesh, too long to read version. So Gilgamesh was the king of which is modern Iraq, which is interesting if you like follow along with politics or world wars or anything like that, because a lot of the wars are basically fought around technology, like ancient technology, which, you know, the general population has no idea of, but that's what they're into. Or like that's why they attack specific areas of the world, because of the energetic signatures, but also because of the ancient technology that is still, I don't want to say it's active, but it has potential to be active there. All right, so Gilgamesh, not a good guy, very douchebag, terrible person. So he was extremely tyrannical and getting too out of control. The gods saw this and decided to make him an equal partner or a twin flame, in order to balance him out in hopes that it would end his oppressive ways and help him see the other sides of life. His father is identified as Lugalbanda, king of Uruk, and his mother is the wise cow goddess Nin's son, making Gilgamesh part man and part god, or a hybrid, which we see a lot, right? So the gods created a man called Enkidu, you know, that was equal in strength to Gilgamesh. Enkidu lived in the wild and nature, whereas Gilgamesh lived an opposite lifestyle as the king. Eventually, Enkidu ends up traveling to Uruk. Actually, so there was some like weird cult-like things, some like initiations that Enkidu was put through, which was very much rape, honestly. So he had to go to see like priestesses that essentially like turned him into a little bit something that he wasn't. Okay, so like he basically, through this initiation process, kind of like lost a lot of parts of himself, unfortunately. And anyway, there's stories that you can read on this if you're like really interested in this, but this is just, again, the too long didn't read version. All right, so eventually Enkidu ends up traveling to Uruk and challenging Gilgamesh to a test of strength. And it was very even pairing. Like Gilgamesh ended up befriending Enkidu because he respected his abilities and also saw his abilities as useful for himself. So they ended up fighting, lasted 7 days, nobody won. Like that's how they knew, like, okay, these two, like, they can't beat each other. So they are an interesting match here. They went off together to slay many monsters, one of them being a notable being Humbaba, who was a sacred nature guardian, and eventually they cut down a sacred cedar tree. So, you know, not good, like, because Enkidu came from the wilderness, whereas Gilgamesh came from, you know, kingdoms. So these are very much opposite energies here. And as like this story progresses, you'll see Enkidu move toward more of the ways of Gilgamesh, which is not really the point. You know what I mean? Like they were supposed to be able to balance each other out, but Gilgamesh's douchebagness and Enkidu's, like, you know, had to go through those initiations or whatever, like it kind of changed him into something that he wasn't, and was then more of a destroyer of nature than actually like protecting nature. So he got on board with Gilgamesh. They went on to slay all these monsters, these nature spirits, cut down a cedar tree. Gilgamesh was definitely distracted from being a douchebag king, but at the same time, Enkidu was starting to turn against his nature and his natural state. So here's where things get interesting, and this isn't in any of the stories, but Gilgamesh and Enkidu were way more than friends. They were also literally lovers, and this is where we get the lovers from. So Gilgamesh and Enkidu, so at one point, the goddess Inanna, and this goes way back to ancient Sumerian timelines, she saw, which is also Venus and Aphrodite, same soul, she saw Gilgamesh's strength and was like, ooh, I want Gilgamesh, like he's a hottie, like I want him to be my partner. And how Gilgamesh responded to that was not good. One, Gilgamesh was gay AF, you know what I mean? He did not want anything to do with Inanna. He was like, girl, bye, essentially. So Gilgamesh, though, like, but nobody knew Gilgamesh was gay. He was just like out here doing stuff and whatever, you get it. So, which is honestly like, whatever. Well, I have bullet points. I gotta stick to my bullet points. All right, so Gilgamesh basically looks, Ishtar I wrote here, but it's actually Inanna, sorry. Ishtar is a different version, but not the same. After describing the harm she has caused to her previous lovers, so he was basically like, all of these other guys you were with, look what they turned into, like, look how bad their lives are, all of this stuff. But so he basically like publicly dragged her instead of just being like, no, sorry, I'm not interested. And this was all to distract from the fact that this dude's gay, you know what I mean? So he would rather like publicly drag Ainana instead of just being like, no, sorry, not interested, because he didn't want people to know he was gay. Crazy. Anyway, which we still see play out in today's society, right? Like, so which is, there's some men who are gay or bi, and instead of just like accepting that lifestyle as who they are as people, they're out here just disrespecting women and, you know, making women seem like they're the problem. And it's like, no, you just are at war with yourself and you need somebody to blame. So that's, we still see this archetype playing out, I think, quite frequently. So Ainana was really pissed about this, and she overreacted a lot of it, and she sent down the Bull of Heaven to attack Gilgamesh, which was a form that Zeus was able to take within the Taurus constellation. So when this happened, though, let's see. Yeah, so she sent down Zeus to attack Gilgamesh, which turned into a whole thing. And Gilgamesh is also the same soul as Orion, which not a fan. And we like, so we see Orion and fighting the Bull of Heaven, which you can see play out like within the sky then still. All right, so fighting, where am I at? Keep in mind, Gilgamesh is also the same soul as Orion, and we see both figures fighting the Bull of Heaven in the sky, aka Zeus. Yeah, okay. So combining their strength, Enkidu and Gilgamesh, they ended up killing the Bull of Heaven. After they killed the Bull of Heaven, the gods were like, that's not good. That's not what we wanted to happen here. Like, ew. Ooh, ooh, like, not good. So they decided to punish the pair by killing Enkidu, leaving Gilgamesh alone without his friend and lover. Gilgamesh was devastated and spent the rest of his life on a quest to find immortality or eternal life, not for himself, but to bring back his friend and lover Enkidu, and he was never able to do so. So very tragic love story, but at the same time, like, what the hell, you know? That's kind of what this is giving, is like, what the hell, what are we actually doing here? So Gilgamesh's soul eventually manifested and incarnated as Orion, which is literally a lower version of the singular version of the Gemini twin flames and lovers. So if you look at like the actual let's go back to here. So you'll see how the Gemini twins are here, and then the lower singular version is Orion then. So higher version could be the twins as, you know, either brother twins or like lover twins, but the lower version, the devolved version, is Orion, which is why I hate Orion, essentially. All right. So the twin flames are not other parts of your soul or a divided soul. It is two, or they're one person who is made specifically for you so that you can learn to balance between masculine and feminine, or like, so Gilgamesh in this scenario would be the masculine, whereas Enkidu was the feminine, like the nature versus city, the structure of the city versus the wildness of nature. And let's see, where am I at? So twin flames, yes, so meant to balance the masculine and feminine energy. And then sometimes they're meant to be your lover, sometimes they're meant to be your friend. It depends on your soul and your own lessons. So twin flames then are not a mirror or a reflection, but a balance of two energies. All right, so the lovers, so this is a different way to look at Gemini energy too. People may be still playing out these archetypes in these timelines. So it really honestly depends what timeline and which archetypes people identify with in order to understand their natal chart a little bit better, because obviously not everybody's dealing with the same things, but these are the themes of these archetypes. So loss of lover or friends, seeking only relationships with people they deem as worthy or on their level, out of control with energy, like doesn't know how to harness their energy or like put it into things how they want. This can be very violent energy, very egotistical energy, problems with public expression or acceptance of sexuality. So might not, you know, accept who they are, blaming others, using people, and learning lessons too late, or like you don't know what you have until it's gone. So these are a little bit more of the harder energies that come with Gemini energy, but it is energy that is there. All right, so the first constellation that we have that aligns with Gemini energy, it impacts Gemini from 0 degrees to 3 degrees. So if somebody has 3 degrees Gemini placement, this is going to be energy that really impacts them. But if they have anywhere from 0 to 3, this is energy that could impact them. So we have Auriga, so charioteer in Latin. It's also a shepherd. You can see him cradling a goat and has goat in his arms, or the kids. Kids is a name for a goat. In his right hands, he has the reins of a chariot. In his left hands, he's holding goats, as you can see. All right, so Auriga is Erichthonius, which is king of Athens and son of god Hephaestus, which is interesting because the god Hephaestus is also another incarnation of Gilgamesh and Orion. So keeping that in mind. So obviously, like in the sky, you'll see things play out next to each other. So usually if people have involvement with each other, their star clusters or star groups or constellations are generally close to each other. Not all the time, but sometimes. Again, the sky is one massive story. So no mother mentioned for Auriga, but he was raised by Athena. So is Athena his mom? No, but she raised him, which is interesting, I think. So he tamed horses and harnessed them for chariots. And then he also invented the 4-horse chariot. So I like this guy. I think he has pretty good vibes overall. So if somebody has 3 degrees Gemini, they might have energy of caretaking, controlling, inventive or innovative with the resources that they have. They might be into really fast speed movement, or they might be into cars or fast vehicles or aircraft. They may have been raised by someone outside of their family, or even like an aunt or something, or lost mother or loss of mother or adopted. And then sometimes these like occult Masonic families, they literally like switch babies, which is crazy. But that just goes into child abuse and stuff like that. So that could be something here too. Masons and Eastern Stars, that's part of what they do to psychologically damage children. And then it's basically a trauma abuse cult. Yeah, anyway, whatever. So anyway, back to Auriga. An interest in animals and possibly tamers or breeders of animals here as well. All right, so then we have Orion, and this impacts Gemini from 0 degrees to 2 degrees. It does impact more of Taurus energy, but we still see this energy impacting Gemini. All right, so Orion. His soul equivalents are Gilgamesh and Hephaestus, as I just mentioned. Orion was half god, half man, or sometimes referred to as 2/3 god and 1/3 man, son of Poseidon. Terrible, terrible god. Dislike him. Orion became known as the Great Hunter, holding a shield or a lion's mane in one arm and a bronze club or a bronze sword in the other, rising above him. He is seen as fighting the bull of heaven, aka the constellation of Zeus or Taurus. Again, if you go back and watch the Taurus mythology, there's different mythologies. There's the bull, there's the cow, there's different ways to interpret it based on what energy that you are currently tapping into. All right. Other representations have Orion with a sword and a belt raising his bronze club. This can be symbolized, or the club symbolizing the killer of animals. And one of the stories about why he's fighting the bull is that he's chasing down one of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, and then Zeus or Taurus is protecting them from Orion. But yeah, it's basically just so that Zeus could have the sisters for himself. It wasn't really about a protective thing. He just didn't want Orion to have them. And so Orion was a very super attractive demigod who went around seducing every woman he possibly could. He would SA people all the time, didn't understand consent, acted selfishly, had no regard for others' well-being. Just a really low, shitty version of Gilgamesh, essentially. So Orion went on like this for a while with nothing to keep him in check until one day he fucked around and found out. He walked over to an island, and then when he was there, he raped Merope, who was the daughter of a king. So the king then, in vengeance for what he had done to his daughter, he blinded Orion and made him like leave the island. So Orion was hungover, blind, messed up at this point, which like good, fuck that guy. And then Orion went to find a solution. So he eventually found a man named Helios, not a man, a god named Helios. He was like, Helios, you gotta help me out, give me my sight back. And then he eventually did. And then what's the first thing that Orion did? He went to go get revenge on the king for taking his eyesight. So like no lessons learned, really, just mad at the king for taking his eyesight. Like didn't see the taking of the eyesight as a consequence to his actions, but was just mad. It's like, bro, get it together. So Orion. Not only was Orion someone who couldn't control his sexual energy or vengeful urges, he also was extremely boastful to the point of stupidity. The ego on this guy is truly out of control. Orion eventually made his way to Crete, where he linked up with Artemis, who was a hunting and moon goddess. There's a lot of stories involving these two's relationship, but Orion was ultimately focused on becoming the best hunter in the world. Like even if he did kind of vibe with Artemis, he was still more so like, no, I'm the best hunter. I need to prove that. So he boasted and bragged that he would kill and hunt every animal on earth to prove that he was the best hunter. All of the gods were like, you don't have to do that. Like, we know that you're a good hunter. Like, chill the fuck out, essentially. But Ryan was all like, because that's, you know, when people are narcissistic or egotistical, they don't really see beyond themselves. They only see like the praise and recognition because they don't have any intrinsic internal value, so they have to get it externally, and that sucks for them. So everyone was like, no, Orion, don't do that. And Orion was like, I have to do that. And so the gods finally were like, okay, you have to stop. Like, we're literally going to stop you now. And the scorpion in Scorpio killed Orion. But Asclepius, or the dude in Ophiuchus, eventually knew how to revive him. So it's like Orion should have stayed dead, but Asclepius over here was like, oh, I'm gonna help you out. I don't know. It's feeling very bro-coded. I don't like it, but here we are. Anyway, Orion ultimately died because of Apollo, who's Artemis's brother. Apollo is actually also a soul of Lucifer. So I don't know how you feel about Lucifer. I don't really care. It's that's a version of Apollo. So Artemis is actually also a version of Melusine, which is the snake, I'm sorry, like the mermaid dragon snake thing the siren that you see on the like Starbucks logo. So fun fact, there's that. Anyway, so Orion and Artemis, because she has many forms, right? Like many different lives. But anyway, so Orion and Artemis became very close and were likely lovers. This angered Apollo because that took away the energy of his sister and attention from him and onto Orion, who Apollo didn't approve of for his sister because, you know, Orion's just not a good person. So then one day, let's see, I was just like playing with my chapstick and broke a hole in it because that's apparently what I'm doing. So anyway, back to this. So Apollo, so one day Orion was in the water, just kind of chilling in the water, and Apollo was right by Artemis, and he looked at Artemis and was like, I'm gonna challenge you. You see that target way over there? If you can hit it, like, you know, just I'm gonna challenge you to hit that target, see if you can actually do it or not. So Artemis was like, yeah, I can do that. And she ended up shooting Orion. So she killed him. And she was obviously pretty devastated about this. So once Artemis accidentally killed Orion, she begs Zeus to at least put him into the sky to be a constellation to be remembered. So that is another Orion myth here. Myth slash story slash timeline. All right, so Orion energy, if somebody has alignments to Orion, they might be very bold, audacious, determined. I'm not going to say these people don't have some drive to them because they absolutely do, but it's like, what is the motivation for that, right? Is it like selfish? Yeah, usually with this energy. So naturally talented, impulsive, needs to take accountability for their actions, selfish motivations for acts, overly sexual, hyper masculine. Like these are the people, honestly, if they have this energy, like natal energy in their natal chart, be very aware, like, okay, they may have like SA tendencies, okay, which is very scary, which honestly, like I've had a few clients where I'm like, because in my head, like all of these visions like flood through of their nature, and I'm like, damn, this is not good. So, and if I am like working with a client, obviously I'm never accusatory. I'm just saying like, yeah, these are energies that you may absolutely deal with, or not, just say it however you feel. But attractive, boastful, using physical force over mental force, reckless energy, adventurous, fearless, egoic, and forceful. Kind of a recipe for disaster, not good vibes. All right, so then we have Lepus, which impacts Gemini from 0 to 1 degree. So just 1 degree yeah. So if somebody has a star alignment at 1 degree Gemini, they have a Lepus overlap. All right, Lepus mythology, the rabbit hare. This is the rabbit that was hunted down by Orion. So it was once a bird and was then changed into a hare by the goddess Astera, who is the goddess of spring and dawn. So once a year, the hare still laid eggs, and this was where we get the origin of the Easter bunny, which I think is interesting. It's like, let me get some water. All right. So this bird then, sort of bird, lost its ability to fly, but then gained ability to lay eggs. All right. So Canis Major, the dog, chases the rabbit Lepus across the sky. The rabbit was put into the sky by Hermes to honor its speed and agility, and this can also be seen as very much like prey energy. So Lepus is the white rabbit. We see a lot of this symbolism in human trafficking. Playboy bunny links to human trafficking and exploitation of women. Again, this is being chased by Canis Major, the dogs. So this can be like men who we call dogs, who are just, purely ruled by their sexual energy. Being hunted by Orion. Orion was notorious for, abusing women sexually and then going underground, things that happen underground and secret, going down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of different references. Follow the White Rabbit, that we see in Alice in Wonderland, we see in The Matrix, we see in a lot of pop culture. So that's where that comes from. Now right? Like everything's so weirdly connected to the cosmos that if you are not aware of things, then you're just gonna go through life like, oh, la-di-da, but like there's a lot of things that are happening right in front of your face that if you don't have this knowledge, you're not going to fully understand. All right, so Lepus energy, people with this degree of planetary placements, they might attract stalkers, they might be involved in human trafficking, willfully or unwillingly. Like there's different ways to be involved in that, unfortunately. So loss of one ability, but may be able to gain another. Very adaptable people may have a sense of being like hunted or preyed upon for sexuality. They might be very fertile. These people may be attracted, or people may be attracted to this person for the wrong reasons or like purely sexual motives. And then they may feel like they're running away from something or someone, or they might have to at some point in their life. So I can actually see like, so for example, if somebody has 1 degree Gemini placement, let's say like anywhere from like 0 degrees to maybe like 2 degrees would be impacted by this energy, because I do see like a degree on both sides of it being impacted. It might not be as impacted, but like close, kind of, if you know what I mean, like a conjunction type thing. All right. So The next constellation we have here is Monoceros. So this is a cool constellation. It's the what do you call it? Unicorn. It's the unicorn. So this impacts Gemini, most of Gemini, from 3 degrees all the way to 28 degrees. Love that. All right. So we have 6 major stars here. There's also a black hole located in Monoceros. I do think that's one of the closest black holes, not thing. This is the closest black hole to Earth. So there's yeah, so that's pretty cool. I think it's at, did I have which degree? Okay, 6 degrees Gemini. So that's at 6 degrees. So if they have a beta Monocerotis alignment, they also then have alignment with this black hole, which is interesting. All right, so Monoceros, mythology and astrological interpretations. There's not too much mythology surrounding this. The unicorn in Latin, yes, unicorns are real. Like Siberian unicorns used to be an actual thing. And there's no real known mythology here. So astrological interpretations based on the symbolism. Unicorns can symbolize purity, hope, healing, wisdom, forgotten knowledge, magic, kindness, unique, rare. Black hole though, like those are the more positive attributes. Black hole energy, ability to swallow you up with no return if you mess with them, like psychologically or physically, and then will quite literally stab you with their head. So that can mean like they're very intelligent or very potentially violent when provoked, and then have sharp words or are very witty. And that I do think like aligns with Gemini energy really well. All of these. So love that. So Columba is the next constellation we have here. Impacts Gemini from 0 degrees to 5 degrees. We have 2 major star alignments here. So you see Columba down here. It's underneath Lepus and Orion. All right. So Columba. My face. So the dove in Latin. Biblically, this was Noah's dove that searched for dry land after the flood. The symbol here is a dove with an olive branch. What does this symbolize? All right. The dove is peace, freedom, love, spirituality, and renewal. The olive branch can be seen as peace, hope, and friendship. All right, so an excerpt here was Columba represents Noah's dove. Petrus Plancius created the constellation from the stars located behind Argo Navis, the constellation that represented the Argonaut ship, and was later split into several smaller constellations. So interesting, I think. All right, Columba, astrologically, these people might be very loving, very peaceful, good friends, helpful. Searching for dry land could be seen as avoiding water or emotional type things. Hopeful, or maybe like able to recover from them a little bit easier than other people. And then hopeful and freedom seeking. All right, Canis Major. Let's get into it. A lot of different constellations here. I'm sorry, star alignments. The most important one probably, sorry, to figure out is the Sirius, Sirius at 10 degrees. Because if you look at the brightness, it's negative 1.09. So it's the brightest star in the sky. So if somebody has 10 degrees Gemini, they're going to have a Sirius alignment, and that's going to be really impactful energy for them. Not only would they have a Sirius alignment, they would also have a Kappa Canis Majoris alignment. So that's 2 different alignments here, but like with the brightest star in the sky, which, yeah, important. All right, so Canis Major mythology, the great dog or greater dog, because then there's Canis Minor, which will be the lesser dog. That's fine. So largest, oh, I wrote Lager, my bad. The larger of 2 hunting dogs of Orion. This dog is following Orion, so kind of just like follows Orion's call and needs and all of that, which is not good if you know, understand what Orion represents. This is literally just like his dog. So chasing Lepus, the rabbit or the hare, standing on its hind legs. In the star Sirius is held in the dog's jaw and mouth. So this is also seen as dog with a blazing face with Sirius in the mouth. That's one way that it has been interpreted over time. Also associated with the dog Leolaps, which was the fastest dog in the world, who was destined to catch anything it pursued. So Zeus gave Leolaps to Europa as a gift. If you look back into like Taurus energy, you'll know who Europa is. And eventually ended up with syphilis and took the dog to hunt a fox. The dog couldn't catch the fox, and the fox was equally as fast. So after an endless chase and race, Zeus turned them both into stone. Why Zeus? You know, he was like, both of you suck. Enjoy being stone. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. So Canis Major, Sirius star symbolism, the Eastern Star. So this is quite literally called the Eastern Star, which is the female cult associated with Freemasons. They are a satanic cult, unfortunately. I've gone into a little bit about who they are, what they do, stuff like that, but you know, not the best humans. In ancient times, the star rose just before sunrise and the hottest parts of the year, which is where we get the dog days of summer. So Sirius, the dog star, would rise just before sunrise during the hottest part of the year, dog days. Sirius, Canis Major, dog star. You get it. Hopefully. So yeah, dog days, which is interesting. So Sirius, Greek Sirios, meaning scorching, glowing, or searing, the brightest star in the sky in Egypt. The rising of Sirius marked the flooding of the Nile, and then part of the winter hexagon and winter triangle. If you want more information on that, feel free to click and read. So this is the symbolism that we see within Satanism, but this is literally the symbolism of the Eastern stars. So it all plays into each other. All right. And these are cults. Anyway, so Canis Major astrological interpretations, if somebody has alignments with those many stars listed, might be more inclined to follow a leader of some sort or follow orders, very powerful, but others using your power instead of self-directed. So you could be a very powerful person, but if you're constantly giving your energy away to other people or other organizations or whatever, like that's a rough time. May be associated or with or have family ties to the Freemasons or Eastern Stars, satanic groups or cults. Always in pursuit of something, goals, something they want. So this is very quick movement and decision, impulsive, acting on instinct versus acting on intellect. And then, so a lot of Geminis, unfortunately, do have a lot of this energy. And then when unable to catch what is being pursued, may get stuck on it or running in circles trying to chase whatever it is. Very interesting. All right, so we also have Lynx. So Lynx is right above Gemini here. If we consider this to be north, which we do, this is Polaris up here, the North Star, North Pole-ish type thing. All right, Lynx. Lynx. In Greek mythology, King Lynxus was taught agriculture, but refused to teach his people and then tried to kill the guy who taught him. Don't love it, but here we are. The goddess Demeter turned him into a lynx as a punishment. She was like, what are you doing? Like, people need this information. People need this knowledge. You're a lynx now. The constellation is so dim that it could only be seen with a person with eyes of a lynx. So that is another interpretation of this mythology here. Lynx symbolism, good eyesight and hearing, supernatural eyesight actually. So maybe able to see beyond or seeing into different dimensions too, which can get really scary for some people, you know, like if you're seeing into other dimensions, then you're likely seeing things that you're not really supposed to be seeing here on this earthly plane, which might get a little weird. These might be people that I'm hearing like maybe like schizophrenic or maybe have some like delusions. But again, they're seeing into different dimensions. So it's not that what they're seeing isn't real, it's just like not important for our reality, if that makes sense. Because it's real somewhere, but not really, you get it. So unraveling of hidden truths here, clairvoyance, vision or remote viewing, very strong third eye abilities here, being able to see things with your mind's eye. And then some equate links with tigers as well, which is interesting. All right, so tigers are linked up to what's his face, Dionysus. So Just knowing that. All right, Lynx, astrological interpretations. Lynx symbolism is applied here. Ability to learn high level information. Sometimes these people have hidden motives. Not everyone can see what they see, or they lack the same vision, like literally or within an imaginative state. May not be willing to teach others what they know, which is interesting because it's like against Gemini nature. So if somebody has these Lynx placements, they might hoard all of this knowledge for personal gain, and they might use somebody for information and then turn on them. So this could be like, I don't know what people are up to, but you get it. You could see how this could be useful in certain organizations or whatever. All right, the next one we have is Puppis. This impacts Gemini from 7 degrees all the way to 28 degrees. We have, let's see, 6 different alignments here with Puppis energy. So this is the stern of a ship of Jason and the Argonauts. This is the ship that Jason and the Argonauts sailed on, a representative of that, to get the golden fleece, which is the fleece of Aries the ram, which you can go back and read about more in the Aries one. Let's see. So was once part of Argo Navis, but separated into Carina, the keel, Vela, the sails, and then Puppis, the stern, which is the largest of the 3. So you can see this massive constellation here. It all used to be Argo Navis, but then they split it up into 3 different constellations. Puppis astrological implications and interpretations. These people might be very adventurous, very like needing to move a lot, or very into travel. People might think that you have a good advice or sense of direction or direction in life. Sterns keep the water out, so these people may be perceived as unemotional or easily able to deal with emotional fluctuations, usually motivated and able to provide self with movement forward. So love that for these people. All right, Canis Minor then. So this impacts Gemini from 20 degrees to 24 degrees. If somebody has alignments at 21 degrees or 24 degrees, this is going to align with Canis Minor energy. All right, so we see, where is it? Canis Major here. I believe Canis Minor is right here then, between Monoceros, but all right. Let's see. Canis Minor, mythology, the first myth. Faithful hunting dog of Orion, the lesser dog, which is placed on the banks of the river of the Milky Way, so it would never be thirsty. It's kind of cute, actually. The little dog. The second myth here is that the fox that Lelaps, aka Canis Major, couldn't catch. So some myths do have this as a fox and not the dog, which I do think, like, depending on interpretations, could get kind of interesting. You know what I mean? Because like small dog and then fox-like behavior are very different things. I guess now that I think of it, they're kind of similar. Like a little yappy dog is kind of more fox-like than like a big dog. Anyway, whatever. So myth 3, the dog Mayera of winemaker Icarus. So Icarus offered some shepherds wine, but they never had wine before, and they thought they were being poisoned, and they killed Icarus. And then Mara, the dog, found him dead and went to his daughter, and both of them were so sad that they took their own lives due to grief. So I'm not quite sure how a dog takes his own life, but that's the myth. That's the third myth here. All right, so Canis Minor, excuse me, astrological interpretations. They are very faithful people, very loyal. They may feel like someone's sidekick versus being the main character. They might enjoy the company of animals or dogs, potentially potential to exhibit trickster energy or like shift into more fox-like energy, quick-witted, fast movement, impulsive, doesn't allow self to get caught up in dangerous things, may experience the passing of a loved one and deal with extreme depression because of it, and suicidal tendencies due to grief. So again, not everybody, I like how like in this interpretation it's kind of like a little wiener dog. That's super cute. But yeah, so these people are very interesting. You know, this energy can be exhibited in a lot of fascinating ways. So I mean, honestly, like talk with your client if you're doing readings for other people to see if this energy is representative of them, and go from there. All right, so that is all of the Gemini energies here. The next constellation we have is Cancer, but a lot of really fascinating energy that does come with Gemini alignments. Hopefully you learned a lot through this. I know I did, but the major one is Castor and Pollux, and then the secondary Gemini expression would be this Gilgamesh and Enkidu. So very ancient timelines we're dealing with, but they're still playing out within modern times. There's probably honestly other ways to look at Gemini energy too. So if you come across any, please do send them my way, because I feel like it's a constantly evolving and changing constellation. But all right, that's Gemini.